About the first Thanksgiving in America, take the following pre-reading quiz. No need for pencil and paper, just true and false as you think appropriate, and see how well you have done as you read and complete this material on the first Thanksgiving. True or false? The original Plymouth colonists were staunch advocates of private property. True or false? The original Plymouth colony had plenty of food, so America became known as the land of plenty. True or false? The original Plymouth colony was settled by people who could be accurately described as socialists with a plan for collective ownership. True or false? The original charter of the Plymouth colony established private plots of farmland and individual ownership of one's personal harvest. True or false? Famine affected the original Plymouth colony. True or false? Because of malnutrition and disease, half of the original Plymouth colony died. True or false? The original Thanksgiving was actually a rescue mission by the American Indians who came to feed the starving English settlers. When modern Americans sit down to Thanksgiving dinner, few know any relevant details behind the original feast. This is more evidence that our knowledge of American literature is thin and many notions about our history are mistaken. If we know little about a popular feast we observe annually, is it any wonder that we know even less about our literature and history in general? Still, this is hardly a valid excuse. We should know from William Bradford's account and from the writings of Edward Winslow some general things about the origins of this celebration. Perhaps one of the best explanations of this history is in a short Forbes magazine article by Jerry Boyer entitled Lessons from a Capitalist Thanksgiving. Take a look at that essay too. The historic background of the first Thanksgiving is interesting, especially in light of the recent rise in popularity of socialism, which was sparked by the campaign of Bernie Sanders. Instead of being capitalists coming to spread laissez-faire capitalism to the New World, the first American settlers coming on the Mayflower were avowed socialists who had signed on to a collectivist scheme to hold their property and earnings in common with all the members of the new colony. They would neither consider the land their private property, nor would they consider their harvest their own. Instead, everything would be shared equally. Those who were strong would not receive more than the weak. Those who were more industrious or efficient would not possess any more than their less gifted fellow settlers would. The young and the old would enjoy everything the most productive could produce equally. There would be no rich or poor. There would be no special treatment of the smart or the dull. Everyone would prosper and enjoy nature's bounty equally. Except the socialist utopia never materialized as expected. Instead, almost half of the original population of Plymouth Colony died during their first year in the New World. Famine, starvation, disease, and plague decimated the socialist utopia. Am I making up this story or falsely attributing its cause to socialism to support some modern political theory or personal ideology? No, hardly. I'm merely repeating what William Bradford wrote in his contemporary writings. Here is your chance to read it for yourself. So they began to think how they might raise as much corn as they could and obtain a better crop than they had done, that they might not still thus languish in misery. At length, after much debate of things, the governor, with the advice of the chiefest among them, gave way that they should set corn every man for his own particular, and in that regard trust to themselves. In all other things to go on in the general way as before, and so assign to every family a parcel of land according to the proportion of their number. For that end only for present use, but made no division for inheritance, and ranged all boys and youth under some family. This had very good success, for it made all hands very industrious. So much more corn was planted than otherwise would have been by any means the governor or any other could use, and saved him a great deal of trouble, and gave far better content. The women now went willingly into the field and took their little ones with them to set corn, which before would allege weakness and inability, whom to have compelled would have been thought great tyranny and oppression. The experience that was had in this common course and condition tried sundry years, and that amongst godly and sober men may well evince the vanity, that conceit of Plato's and other ancients applauded by some of later times, that the taking away of property and bringing in community into a commonwealth would make them happy and flourishing, as if they were wiser than God. For this community, so far as it was founded to breed much confusion and discontent and retard much employment that would have been to their benefit and comfort. For the young men that were most able and fit for labor and service did repine that they should spend their time and strength to work for other men's wives and children without any recompense. The strong or man of parts had no more in division of victuals and clothes than he that was weak and not able to do a quarter the other could. This was thought injustice, the aged and graver men to be ranked and equalized in labors and victuals, clothes, etc., with the meaner and younger sort, thought it some indignity and disrespect unto them. And for men's wives to be commanded to do service for other men, as dressing their meat, washing their clothes, etc., they deemed it a kind of slavery. Neither could many husbands well brook it. Upon that point, all being to have alike and all to do alike, they thought themselves in the like condition and one as good as another. And so if it did not cut off those relations that God had set amongst men, yet it did at least much diminish and take off the mutual respects that should be preserved amongst them, and would have been worse if they had been men of another condition. Let none object this is men's corruption and nothing to the course itself. I answer, seeing all men have this corruption in them, God in his wisdom saw another course fitter for them. That's William Bradford's explanation. And as Bradford pointed out, these original colonists were, of course, religious pilgrims who came to America for religious reasons to escape intolerance and persecution. Yet even these well-intentioned idealists could not make socialism work in this early American colony. Bradford's point is well taken. If a group of like-minded idealists with everything to gain could not make socialism work for themselves, there is little reason to believe that it would work anywhere, no matter who tried it. For his part, Bradford thought that people everywhere were alike enough to generalize from the Pilgrim's experience. Human beings are human beings, and no amount of theorizing or wishful thinking can change who we are. When incentives and competition are artificially removed from human life, the motive force and energy of human effort are likewise removed. William Bradford had reluctantly come to believe that God had acquiesced to human limitations and granted men private property as the wisest course for human prosperity. Theologians have remarked about this for thousands of years. Consider the Ten Commandments among the oldest of human moral codes. The Ten Commandments assume the existence of private property. When we are told, "Thou shalt not steal," or "Do not covet your neighbor's cattle," and such, we are given to understand that private property is a basic right and no taking of private property is allowed. But like Bradford recognizes, people have always thought that they know better than God, so they follow Plato or some new contemporary luminary, and they adopt socialism. Instead of Bernie Sanders bringing us a new 21st century message, he is asking us to return to our Plymouth roots and rely on socialism. It did not work in Venezuela, Cuba, Laos, Vietnam, Angola, or Cambodia, to name a few countries. But we are assured that if we adopt it again today in the United States, we would get a different outcome. Today's would-be American socialists owe an explanation about the Plymouth colony's failure under socialism. Why did the colony nearly starve under early American socialism? And these evangelists of collectivism also need to explain, how are we so different today? Are 21st century people so much better, wiser, and altruistic than our Plymouth forebearers? How so? How do you know? Where's the proof? Without convincing explanations and answers to these and other questions about socialism's dark history, following Bradford's advice, we should be wary of returning to a failed socio-economic scheme.